I'm holding Sophie's hand when her fingers twitch. Not much, barely perceptible. But after 4 years of absolute stillness, it might as well be an earthquake. Mr. Hastings, I whisper, my voice shaking. Come here. Now. He appears in the doorway of his daughter's room, tall and exhausted. Another late night at the firm etched into the lines around his eyes. What's wrong? Watch. I stroke the inside of Sophie's wrist, gentle, rhythmic, the way my grandmother taught me. Watch her hand. We both stare at Sophie's fingers resting on the white blanket. 5 seconds. 10. Then, her index finger moves. A tiny curl inward. Unmistakable. Daniel Hastings goes pale. That's not possible. I've been seeing it for 3 weeks, I tell him. Small movements. Always when I do this. I demonstrate again. The specific touch, the exact pressure. The doctors said, his voice breaks. They said the nerve damage was permanent. That she'd never. Sophie's eyes are open, watching us. Always watching. For years trapped in a body that won't obey, aware of everything, able to do almost nothing. But her hand just moved. And I know something every neurologist in Boston has missed. 6 months earlier, the Hastings penthouse occupies the top 3 floors of a building overlooking Boston Harbor. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Marble everything. The kind of wealth that turns tragedy into a different kind of prison, luxurious but still locked. I arrive for the interview carrying my portfolio of references, my nursing certification, and the weight of my own daughter's memory. Jasmine would have been 24 now. Would have finished college. Would have lived. If I'd known then what I know now about listening to what bodies say instead of what doctors assume. Mrs. Patricia, the head of household, walks me through the penthouse. Past a living room larger than most houses. Past an elevator installed specifically for Sophie's wheelchair. Past a medical suite that would rival most hospitals. Sophie requires round-the-clock care, Mrs. Patricia explains. Mr. Hastings is a single father. His wife left 2 years after the accident. Couldn't handle it. What happened? I ask. Car accident. 4 years ago. Sophie was 14. Traumatic brain injury, spinal damage. She's conscious, aware, but mostly paralyzed. She can blink, make small facial expressions, swallow with assistance. That's all. That's all. As if that's nothing. As if awareness without agency isn't its own kind of hell. Mrs. Patricia opens a door. Sophie Hastings sits in a specialized wheelchair by the window. 18 years old. Long dark hair someone's brushed carefully. Hazel eyes that track our movement. A face that would be beautiful if it wasn't frozen in careful neutrality. Sophie, this is Grace Williams. She's interviewing for the day position. I approach slowly. Kneel so we're eye level. Hello, Sophie, I say. I'm Grace. I know you can hear me, understand me. So I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm here because I lost my daughter 5 years ago. Medical system failed her. Ever since, I've been working with people doctors have given up on. Not because I'm a miracle worker, but because I pay attention differently. Sophie's eyes fix on mine. Something shifts in them. Recognition, maybe. Or hope. If you don't want me here, blink twice. She holds my gaze. Doesn't blink. Then let's see what we can figure out together. Daniel Hastings arrives home at 8. Loosened tie, shirt sleeves rolled up, briefcase heavy with the work that keeps him from his daughter. He's 42, but looks 50. Handsome in that weathered way of men carrying unbearable weight. His eyes find Sophie immediately. Checking. Always checking. Making sure she's still here. Mr. Hastings, I'm Grace. Mrs. Patricia hired me for the day shift. Daniel. He corrects, offering his hand. His grip is firm, but his fingers tremble slightly. Exhaustion or stress or both. Thank you for taking this position. Sophie's been through 7 caregivers in 2 years. Why do they leave? He glances at his daughter. Some can't handle the emotional toll. Others think they know better than the medical team. Start suggesting miracle cures, experimental treatments, faith healers. His voice hardens. I've spent $500,000 chasing hope. All it bought was disappointment. I hear the grief beneath the anger. The father who would give anything but has learned that anything isn't enough. I'm not here to sell you hope. I say, I'm here to care for Sophie. Good. He moves to his daughter's chair, kisses her forehead. Hey, sweetheart. How was today? Sophie blinks once. Their code for, okay, I'll learn later. School assignments? 1 blink. Good girl. He straightens, and I see it. The moment he forces himself to leave her. To trust her care to someone else. To keep working because the medical bills never stop. Call if you need anything, he tells me. I'll be in my study. After he leaves, I sit with Sophie. Her physical therapist notes are detailed. Range of motion exercises, positioning protocols, skincare routines. Everything to maintain what function remains. But I've learned something in my years since Jasmine died. Sometimes the body knows things the brain can't communicate. Sometimes there are pathways doctors miss because they're looking at scans instead of people. Sometimes you have to listen with more than your ears. Sophie, I say quietly, I'm going to touch your hand. Just gently. If anything feels uncomfortable, blink twice. I'll place my fingers on her wrist. Her skin is warm, her pulse steady. I move slowly up to her palm, her fingers, checking temperature, muscle tone, any response. Nothing obvious. But when I stroke the inside of her wrist in a specific pattern my grandmother used, a pressure point technique passed down through her family, Sophie's eyes widen slightly. Not much, but enough. You felt that? I whisper. One blink. Yes. My heart rate kicks up. Can you feel this? I repeat the motion. One blink. Sophie, have you told the doctors you can feel things? Two blinks. No. Why not? She can't answer complex questions. But her eyes fill with tears. And I understand. She's tried. She's been trying. And no one believed her. Because when the experts say something is impossible, everyone stops looking for possible. I spend the first month learning Sophie's language. One blink, yes. Two blinks, no? Eyes tracking left. She wants something in that direction. Slight facial tension, discomfort, rapid blinking, distress, or excitement. But I'm also learning what the doctors haven't documented. She has sensation in places her charts say she shouldn't. Her right hand responds to specific touches. Her left foot shows muscle activation when positioned certain ways. Why haven't you shown this to your therapists? I asked during week 3. Two blinks. Then her eyes move toward a notebook on her desk. I bring it over. It's filled with medical notes, therapy logs, physician observations. All of them, in different handwriting, documenting no response to stimuli and no improvement in motor function. They're not looking for it, I realize. They've decided what's possible, so they don't see what's actually happening. One blink. Emphatic. I've seen this before. Jasmine's doctors looked at her chart, her history, their protocols, and missed that her symptoms were changing. That what started as one thing had become another. They treated the diagnosis instead of the patient. She died from their certainty. Okay, I tell Sophie. We're going to document everything. Build evidence they can't ignore. I start keeping my own log. Date, time, specific stimuli, exact responses. I photograph her hand positions, video her reactions. I research neuroplasticity, nerve regeneration, incomplete spinal injuries. I learned that brains can rewire themselves. That pathways everyone thought were dead sometimes find new routes. That permanent is often just, we don't know how to fix it yet. And I discover case studies, rare ones, medical anomalies, of patients regaining function years after injury. Not through miracles. Through specific, targeted stimulation that helped dormant pathways wake up. At night, I practice techniques on my own hands, learning pressure points, muscle memory triggers, sensory integration patterns. During the day, I work with Sophie. Not therapy. Not officially. Just a maid who sits with her, who talks to her, who touches her hands while they watch TV together, who notices when her fingers start responding. Daniel works constantly. 16-hour days at the law firm. Partnership track. The kind of career that demands everything and gives back prestige, money, emptiness. He comes home exhausted. Checks on Sophie. Signs off on medical reports. Then disappears into his study until midnight. He feels guilty. Mrs. Patricia tells me one afternoon. He was driving the night of the accident. Didn't see the other car running the light. Sophie was thrown into the dashboard despite her seatbelt. He blames himself. It wasn't his fault. Tell him that. She shakes her head. He's trying to earn enough to pay for any treatment, any specialist, anything that might help. But he's missing her life while he does it. I see it in Sophie's eyes when her father breezes through. The longing, the loneliness. She's trapped in her body and trapped in this apartment, and the one person who could make it bearable is trapped by guilt. Mr. Hastings, I say one evening when he's heading to his study. Sophie learned a new communication pattern today. Want to see? He pauses, torn between work and daughter. It'll take 5 minutes. He follows me to Sophie's room. I've set up a simple system. Objects placed in a row. Sophie using eye movements to spell out words letter by letter. Watch. Sophie, spell something for your dad. Her eyes move deliberately. L-O-V-E-Y-O-U. Daniel's face crumbles. He drops to his knees beside her chair. I love you too, sweetheart. So much. I'm sorry I've been. His voice breaks. I'm so sorry. Sophie blinks once. Forgiveness she shouldn't have to give. Stay with her, I say quietly. The work can wait. For once, he does. They communicate through blinks and eye movements. He tells her about his day, about the city beyond their windows, about everything she's missing. She listens, present in a way that makes his presence matter. Later, as I'm leaving, he stops me in the hallway. Grace. Thank you. I'm just the maid. No. His eyes are red but clearer than I've seen them. You're the first person who's treated Sophie like she's still here. Still Sophie. Not just a patient to maintain. She is still here. She's always been here. I know. I forgot to look. Week 8, I find the physical therapist's report. It recommends reducing Sophie's therapy sessions. Patient has plateaued. Current intervention, maintaining baseline function. Suggest monthly maintenance schedule. They're giving up on her. I corner Mrs. Patricia. We need to show them what I've been documenting. Sophie's making progress. Grace. She looks at me with pity. I've seen caregivers before who think they're seeing improvement, who want so badly to help that they imagine responses that aren't there. I have videos. Of what? Muscle spasms? Involuntary movements? The doctors have explained. She's spelling words with her eyes, moving her fingers on command, responding to specific stimuli. Then show the therapist during her next session. Sophie can't do it on demand. It takes the right environment, the right approach, the right belief. Mrs. Patricia's voice gentles. Honey, I understand. But false hope is cruel. To Sophie and to her father. It's not false. It's real. I know what I'm seeing. So did the last caregiver. And the one before her. They all thought they'd found the magic key. She squeezes my shoulder. Care for Sophie. Love her. But don't make promises her doctors say are impossible. After she leaves, I sit with Sophie. Her eyes meet mine, knowing, sad. They don't believe me. I say, one blink. But I believe you. I know what you can do. One blink. Then tears sliding down her immobile face. We'll prove it. We'll make them see. But I've promised things before. I promised Jasmine the doctors would fix her. That I'd make sure she got the care she needed. I was wrong then. What if I'm wrong now? Week 10, Sophie moves her hand. Not a twitch. Not a spasm. A deliberate curl of her fingers when I ask her to. Again, I whisper, my heart pounding. Sophie, if you can hear me, move your index finger. It moves. Now your thumb. It moves. I'm shaking. I grab my phone, set it to record. Sophie, I'm going to ask you to move different fingers. Take your time. Only if you can. Over the next 5 minutes, she demonstrates control. Not full, not easy, but unmistakable. Her right hand is waking up. I showed Daniel the video that night. He watches in silence. Watches it again. His hands grip the phone so hard his knuckles white. How he whispers. Neuroplasticity. Sensory stimulation. Her brain finding new pathways. The medical team gave up too soon. They said, I know what they said. But Sophie's body is saying something different. I pull out my documentation. 3 months of observations. Consistent responses. Progressive improvement. He looks at his daughter. Sophie, is this real? Can you really move your hand? She blinks once. He makes a sound, half sob, half laugh. Then he's hugging her carefully, crying into her hair. My girl, my brilliant girl, you've been trying to tell us. One blink. He pulls back, wiping his eyes. We need to contact her neurologist. Show them this. If there's been nerve regeneration, if there's any possibility, they won't believe it. I say. Not until they see it themselves. Then we make them see. Dr. Reeves arrives 2 days later. He's Sophie's primary neurologist, distinguished, experienced, author of papers on traumatic brain injury. He's also the one who declared her condition permanent 18 months ago. He watches my videos with professional skepticism. Involuntary muscle contractions. Common in patients with spinal trauma. The pattern you're describing sounds like spasticity. It's not spasticity, I insist. She's doing it on command. Ms. Williams, I appreciate your dedication to Sophie's care. But you're not a neurologist. What you're interpreting as voluntary movement is likely, then test her yourself. He sighs, sets up his own examination. Standard neurological tests, verbal commands, looking for responses documented in his protocol. Sophie, overwhelmed by the clinical environment, can't perform on demand. Her hand stays still. Dr. Rees makes notes. As I thought, I understand the desire to see improvement, but false hope serves no one. Sophie's injury is permanent. These videos show reflex activity, nothing more. After he leaves, Daniel sits with his head in his hands. Maybe we were seeing what we wanted to see. No, I say firmly. Sophie, show your father. Right now. Move your hand. Silence. Sophie's eyes are full of frustration and fear. She's scared, I realize. She's been trying to show people for years, and no one believes her. She's afraid of failing again. Sophie, Daniel takes her hand gently. I believe you. Grace believes you. You don't have to prove anything. But if you can, if you want to, we're watching. Long seconds pass. Then, slowly, deliberately, Sophie's fingers curl around her father's hand. He gasps. Again, sweetheart. Squeeze my hand. She does. Weak, but unmistakable. Daniel looks at me with wild hope. How do we make the doctors see this? We don't. We work with therapists who will. I find Dr. Yuki Chun for research. She's a physical medicine specialist who's published studies on late-stage neurological recovery. Controversial work. Most colleagues dismiss her, but her patients improve. She agrees to evaluate Sophie independently. Arrives with equipment, fresh eyes, no preconceptions about permanent damage. She spends 3 hours with Sophie. Uses different testing methods. Asks permission for every touch. Watches, truly watches, for what's actually happening instead of what charts say should happen. Finally, she looks at Daniel. Your daughter has functional neural pathways in her right hand and wrist that aren't documented in her medical records. Limited, yes, but present. With intensive, targeted therapy, she might develop additional motor control. Might. Daniel's voice shakes. Her injury is severe. I can't promise miracles. But she's not as permanent as Dr. Reeves assessed. Someone gave up too soon. She turns to me. What have you been doing with her? I explain. The pressure points, the sensory stimulation, the specific touches that seem to activate responses. Dr. Chin nods slowly. You've been doing intuitive neural facilitation. Most therapists need years of training. You learned it where? My grandmother was a traditional healer. She taught me about the body's energy pathways before she died. Well, your grandmother knew something Western medicine is only now rediscovering. Would you be willing to work with my team? We need you to document your exact techniques. I'll do whatever helps Sophie. The therapy is intensive. Dr. Chun brings in specialists, occupational therapists, neurologists willing to challenge conventional wisdom, technicians with electrical stimulation equipment. They map Sophie's neural responses, identify which pathways have potential, design a protocol specifically for her body, not her diagnosis. I'm there for every session, translating Sophie's responses, noticing the tiny cues that indicate comfort or distress, using the techniques that I've found work best. Slowly, incrementally, Sophie improves. At 3 months, she can move all fingers on her right hand, can grip objects with assistance, can touch her thumb to her other fingers. At 6 months, she's regained partial sensation in her left arm, can make small facial expressions, a smile, a frown. At 9 months, she speaks her first word in 4 years. Dad, Daniel's in a meeting when I call him. He leaves immediately, runs through the apartment, finds Sophie with Dr. Chun. Say it again, I urge. Say it for him. Sophie's face contorts with effort. Her vocal cords have atrophied from disuse. But she forces out the sound, D-Dad. Daniel drops beside her wheelchair and weeps. Sophie's right hand, still shaking, still weak, touches his hair. Love, you, she whispers. The improvements aren't miraculous. Sophie doesn't walk, doesn't regain full function. The damage is real, permanent in many ways. But she has her voice back, has movement in her right side, can communicate not through blinks, but through words, through touch, through expressions. She's not trapped anymore. Dr. Reeves reviews the case, writes a paper about unexpected neural regeneration, takes credit while carefully avoiding the word wrong. I don't care. Sophie's progress is its own vindication. Daniel cuts back his hours, partners with his firm on flexible arrangements. Spends mornings with Sophie, not just checking on her, but being with her. They communicate now. Real conversations. About her therapy, about his work, about the life she wants when she's recovered enough. I want to go outside, she says one afternoon, words still slow but clear. See the city. So we do. Daniel pushes her wheelchair through Boston Common. Sophie turns her face to the sun, smiling with half her mouth, tears streaming down both cheeks. Thank you, she whispers to me. For believing. You did the work, I tell her. I just paid attention. 2 years after I started, Sophie appears in a video for Dr. Chin's research. She sits in her wheelchair, speaking slowly but clearly. For 4 years, I was awake but silent. I tried to show people I could feel, could think, could respond. But they stopped looking. The doctors said, permanent. So everyone believed, permanent. She pauses, gathering strength. Except Grace. She was just the maid. Not a doctor. Not a specialist. But she noticed what no one else saw. And she refused to stop believing. The video goes viral. News outlets pick it up. Other families reach out. Loved ones dismissed as hopeless, trapped in bodies that medicine gave up on. Dr. Chen starts a clinic, specializing in patients doctors have abandoned, using the protocols developed with Sophie. She asked me to join the team. You have a gift for seeing what others miss. It's not a gift, I say. I just remember what it's like when no one listens. I think of Jasmine, of the doctors who missed her decline, of my own failure to push hard enough, demand answers, trust my instincts over their credentials. I couldn't save her, but I've helped save Sophie. And now, maybe, others. Daniel and Sophie move to a ground-floor accessible home. Sophie continues therapy, continues improving. She's 21 now, takes online classes, dreams of law school, disability advocacy, patients' rights. I want to help. People like me, she says. People trapped, who need someone to fight. Daniel smiles. You'll be brilliant at it. I visit them monthly, not as a caregiver anymore. Sophie has a full team now, but as family. The woman who refused to accept impossible when everyone else already had. We sit in Sophie's garden, accessible raised beds where she grows herbs with her functioning hand. She's proud of every plant, every bloom she tends. Grace, Sophie says, her voice stronger now. Why did you keep pushing when no one believed you? I think about this, about Jasmine, about the moment I decided no one's certainty mattered more than what I could see. Because I've been the person who stayed silent once, I tell her. Who trusted the experts when my gut said something was wrong. Who let credentials intimidate me into doubt. Your daughter. My daughter. The words still hurt. Always will. The doctor said she was fine. Said I was overreacting. I believed them because they were doctors and I was just a mother. Sophie takes my hand. The grip is weak but intentional, miraculous in its existence. She'd be proud of you. I hope so. I hope she knows that I learned. That I won't let it happen again. If this story touched you, if you've ever been dismissed by someone with authority, ever felt invisible, ever known something was true even when experts said it wasn't, I need you to hear this. Your observations matter. Your instincts count. The fact that you're not a doctor, not a specialist, not credentialed in the field doesn't make you wrong. Sometimes the people closest to a situation see what distant experts miss. Sometimes lived experience teaches things no textbook can. Sometimes the answer isn't in the medical journal but in the grandmother's wisdom, the caregiver's patience, the mother's gut instinct. Trust yourself, especially when authority tells you not to. The world needs people who notice what others overlook, who ask questions when everyone else accepts answers, who refuse to let other people's limitations define what's possible. Be that person. Be the voice that won't quiet. Be the presence that pays attention when everyone else has moved on. Sophie wasn't saved by a miracle. She was saved by someone who decided that permanent was a conclusion worth challenging. You have that power too. To look closer. To believe different. To refuse the verdict that something or someone is beyond hope. Use it. Someone's life might depend on your willingness to see what everyone else has decided isn't there. And if this story reminded you that the overlooked often see the most, that the smallest voice sometimes speaks the biggest truth, that God works through the humble and unlikely, subscribe for more stories of people who changed everything by refusing to stay in their place. Because the world doesn't need more people who know their place. It needs more people who know that truth matters more than place. Be that person.